That's right. We're talking Survivor tonight on Podquester Mini. Louie, I know you're a big Survivor fan. You must be brimming with excitement.
I have Outwit, Outplay, Outlast tattooed on my leg. That's a true story.
Can you show me now? Is that...
Can I get my leg?
While he shows it, specifically Survivor,
wait, hold on.
We're talking...
There you go. There you go.
Here we go. Right
there you
go. Wow. Yeah. Specifically, we are going to be touching base briefly on last night's epic Season 40 Winners at War finale, but mainly discussing next week's Sequester Mini with an all-Survivor cast, who we think should play, who we think would play, who we think could play, all of that. We want to hear what you guys are thinking as well, so be sure to comment below in the comments. But let's go ahead and bring our guests in. Let's tarry no further. Our guests today are winners from the Sequester Mini world. You know her, especially if you listen and watch a lot of minis, you'll recognize her voice instantly. She's been modding a lot of games lately, but let's not forget that she has won the game. We're bringing in Beth. Hi, Beth.
Guys, we have a room limit. I'm going to have to ask you both to just figure out who's going to leave because this is my room. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Bye.
There we go. Thank you for joining us, Beth.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yes, absolutely. Next up, we have... you saw him play a month or so ago, month and a half, I think. I don't know the exact date, but he slayed Alan P. Hands in the final two. We have Josh W. here.
Just want to say the next time you guys call me a bitch, make sure you put the baddest in front of it, okay?
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Thank you. Good to know. Get that out in the open on the platform while you have it. Last but not least, tonight we have the most recent winner of the Sequester Mini World. We have Jacob.
I'm still dying laughing when you brought up Alan Pink because I'm just like, it's just like, because that was my first mini that I watched like fully, and I was like so insane.
Yeah, that was my first mini that I watched as well. It's a good one to start.
I love that.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Oh, it looks like someone in the chat is saying, Beth, that we got to get you to sing at some point.
Room limits, that's where we're at. There we go.
There we go. It's all you're gonna get.
Wait, you can actually sing.
I can actually. If I didn't have my green screen behind me, I am actually my family's music studio right now. We're all big music nerds, and we all play different instruments. So,
what instruments do you play?
I play a little bit of keyboards. I play a little bit of bass guitar, but I play mostly saxophone, clarinet, and I'm a singer. So.
Oh, nice.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Many hats.
I try to wear various ones. So.
It's a full band. You're a full band.
Well, I mean, and I play like open chords on a guitar. Like I'm not good, but it's like Beth play these 3 chords over and over. And I'm like, I can do that. So, yeah.
Well, you're still talented, which is
Thank you.
More than I can play. Yeah. Well, I'm assuming all of you guys, I mean, we're here to talk Survivor. I'm sure you guys all watched the finale last night. I'm sure you've been spending most of your day, Beth, talking about the finale.
It's been a long day, but a good one. This is the stuff I like to talk about. So.
Wait a minute, Beth, you're a Survivor fan?
I just decided to watch it, and I don't know. It just like really spoke to me. I really liked it.
We couldn't tell.
Oh my goodness.
How long has everyone been watching Survivor? I'd be interested to get your guys' kind of history with it.
I was watching Big Brother first, and I think probably I want to say 8 years or so. Yeah, about 8 years. Yeah. And so I'm only 23 right now, so it's like teen stage, and then at that point.
Yeah. Wow.
I remember 23.
Such a baby.
I'm 21. So.
Yeah,
I thought I was a little older than you, Jacob. Wow.
Oh my God. All right, so we're not going to talk about age that much as I'm 31.
We had Tristan, the 16-year-old, playing this past weekend.
I know. 16, I thought he was 12, man. That kid looked so young.
He really did look young, but he brought the flavor.
He really did.
Man.
I started watching Survivor around season 30 when Natalie won. That was my first season.
I love that season.
One of my favorite.
Yeah, I watched from the beginning. I was a season 1 fan. And then I went to college and took a break for a few years. And then kind of watched on and off for the first couple of years outside of college. Picked it back up, but I've since watched all the seasons except for 2, I think. Went back.
Oh, wow.
Big Vic Survivor fan.
I
I've
love
never
that.
went back and watched like the OG seasons. I just watched like the best moments of like the seasons, and like I like the cringeworthiest moments. And, like they have different like sections
Oh
about
yeah.
that. And so that's about the old seasons that I've seen.
You know, I really highly suggest going back and watching the old seasons because you get a good appreciation, especially for this past season of Survivor 40 for some of those players, but also like how much the game has evolved. It's really just a completely different game in many regards.
Yeah. I still love the older seasons. Like the older seasons are the ones that I consistently rewatch. I started season 1, episode 2, and I've watched consistently since then. But yeah, I mean, I still. I could still go through the entire boot lists from like season 1 to like season 12, in order. But like after that, it gets fuzzy. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's crazy.
What about you, TR?
Well, I've been watching since on and off since I was like a young child. I specifically remember my mom watching Boston Rob's first season. I was telling Mallory, I have a distinct memory of my mom just saying Boston Rob around the house all the time.
Boston Rob.
Boston Rob. And that was back when I really didn't watch. So since then, I kind of watched on and off with her. I kind of fell off a little bit in my teenage years, but I've really gotten into it in the last 5 or 6 years or so. And Mallory and myself, we both watch it with her family. Great season.
Fantastic season.
Can't complain.
That's
too much.
amazing.
I mean, I could complain, but yeah, not too much.
I can't complain as much as some other people seem to be able to complain. But
yeah.
You know what? At some point, y'all got to let go and just appreciate what we just got for a season. Anybody who's out there complaining, just putting it out there.
There's always things that could be better, but at the end of the day, we had pretty much an ideal final 3. Pretty much one of the greatest complete seasons by a winner of all time. Like, would I have loved Michelle to get votes? Sure, but at the end of the day, the right person won. So I'm not going to complain too much.
Exactly. Also, this season was just so story based. Like you really got the whole story from the beginning.
I loved it.
And I was like, what is happening? Like
we ate really good on season 40.
It was great.
Really good.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good.
Oh yeah,
I liked it.
the Tony and now Lucina storyline that has spanned 4 seasons is incredible.
I know.
Incredible.
Like
that ending,
6
that
years.
ending moment when they gave each other the hug and they were like, and Lucina was like, and I was like, oh my goodness, I almost felt like tears coming over me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There were quite a few moments where I teared up last night, and a lot of it had to do like after the Edge of Extinction comeback challenge, where they were all lining up talking about stuff. I was weeping the entire time. I just was like, I'm just so happy that we had a season where we got to see some of these people come back and play, and they gave it their all. And even though they didn't win, like I even watched some of the Ponderosa stuff this morning when I first woke up.
Watched it too, yeah.
And I was crying when I first woke up because I'm that big of a nerd and that much emotionally invested in it. And I was just like, we are so honestly blessed as fans to be able to have this content, and especially during quarantine. So yeah, I'm totally here for it.
Sosa! See, you know, a shade. Do
you want to answer that question?
Oh my god! Okay, my ad is at JoshCEO JW, JoshCEO JW. You can hit me at dollar.
She said she's trying to see something, bro.
Say it, man. Okay, let me stop acting weird.
I love Sosa.
Oh my goodness, she's awesome.
This was a little
Valencia.
Was a little awkward. I was surprised she didn't get at least one.
Yeah, I never feel like they're awkward. I just really felt so pissed off. Not pissed off, that's too much. But I was like just so uneasy that first off, like she didn't receive one vote, and I thought Nick was going to vote for her just based on like the illusion that he made it seem like before he revealed it. And I just felt, and when she like was put her head inside of her like sister's arms, I was like, oh my goodness. And her storyline and her reflecting on her last season, which kept coming up about how she felt she didn't deserve it. And it's just like, it was such a heart aching moment just for me to see her and not receive any votes. I was like,
that's exactly what I was going to say. It's that her whole storyline was built around her not feeling deserving, and then for her to end with 0 votes, I was like, well, that's not the best way to end that story at all.
Yeah, it was a weird editing choice to like fit so many of those moments in. I also, it was interesting, a lot of the post-game press that we saw over last night and this morning, it seemed like a few of the jurors, as much as they loved Natalie, were afraid of the perception if someone from EOE won, and then they were afraid that if they voted for Michelle, that potentially could make Natalie win. So instead of stacking the votes on Michelle because they knew that she probably wasn't going to win, they gave it to Tony. So it's a weird thing. Like, I never even thought of the politics behind that. I've always just thought, like, vote for who you think is the winner, not vote for who you don't think should win, which is like basically what would happen all the time in a final 2, which is why they switched to a final 3. But now we're seeing it even in a final 3. So I'm like, you know what? If you're a game player, you got to account for that now too.
Do you think that it would have been like as controversy as it was the first time? Just because I feel like these are all like iconic players, and so like I get that, but it doesn't register in my mind that it will be as controversial, and the fans will be like, "Oh, yeah, what did y'all do? Be us up in the uproar to like a Boston Rob or to like one of those people?" Just because I feel like it's all respect. And so that's why I just felt like, I wish some votes would have moved. I just didn't feel like it would be the same controversy as it was the first time.
I don't think people would have been as upset. I think, first of all, even though people didn't like season 38's ending, I think that Chris Underwood set a precedent that you can win from EOE. So at least there was that kind of familiarity was set in people's minds. We actually talked about this a little bit tonight too. And I also feel like Natalie played her ass off at Edge of Extinction, which is its own different game. So while it's not Survivor, it did have an impact on the actual game of Survivor, and she was able to effectively communicate that at the final tribal. And she was able to own things that she didn't do well, like distancing herself from other people on EOE when she was there. So I do feel like if she had won, I think people would have been frustrated and been like, well, this proves that if you go to EOE, you have a really good chance of winning the game. So like, what's the point of getting voted out? But I also do think that she would have been easier to swallow than pretty much anybody else coming back, for the exception of maybe Tyson. Because if Tyson came back twice, that would have been great.
Yeah, I think like Natalie played pretty much as perfect game on EOE as you can, right? Like
exactly
the number that she just dominated everyone. I think in a lot of situations she would win. The only case was that Tony played essentially a perfect game of Survivor. So, I think if it's not Tony and Sarah wins fire making, I mean, I think Natalie has a shot at winning the game. It's really just Tony was perfect.
I wouldn't have been mad about it.
I think if it was the 3 women at the end and not Tony, I think that you would have seen a more even disbursement of the votes, and I do think Michelle would have gotten her votes then. And I do think I don't think she would have won. I think that Michelle might have gotten only like 1 or 2, but 1 or 2 is big when you pretty much have Sarah and Natalie battling it out. So I think it would have been a closer vote had it been Sarah. And I actually think Natalie would have beaten Sarah.
I do too.
I'm kind of glad that Tony ended up winning, even though I was rooting for Natalie win. This story was built for Tony. If he had lost at the end, I would have been more pissed at Sarah beating him than Natalie losing, really.
Yeah.
So.
Same.
But it was a great finale to a great season, and I'm so happy that we had that.
Exactly.
And Amber words to Boston Rob when she was talking about like their relationship. She was talking about her win and how like I know people like don't think I deserve it. And she like people would have like she did this for him. I was like, oh my goodness, the tear guy for the stream.
Oh my god,
that's real love.
Just looking at Adam's face made me sad. And like just the whole time he was just like, I'm like, man, these are.
And then Sophie was sick. I was like, she just
I felt bad for Sophie. But she also provided some really good mood moments too in that final.
Her glasses all fogged up. I was like, I'm hurt at this moment.
Imagine being sick and then sitting in the rain the next day.
That cold rain.
Oh, man, it was a good time.
Well, this season might be over, but that doesn't mean, of course, that the Survivor talk has to end because thanks to Audrey and Sequester, we have an exciting event next week to look forward to. That's right. And I couldn't think of 4 other people I'd rather sit down 2 of you, 3 of you I haven't even really met before. I'd rather sit down and figure out who we think might just show up on our computer screens next week.
Yes.
Be a good time.
So, right off the bat, is there anyone that we think is very likely to play? There's someone who maybe is plugged into the internet or pretty into other games besides Survivor.
Adam.
I'm 100% there. Yeah.
He was on my list.
1000%. He's such a fan of, I feel like, of reality TV shows, like competition shows like Big Brother or Survivor. And I just feel like it would be so out of place for him not to participate. You know what I mean? And so,
pretty sure he offered to do this.
Yeah. I feel like he's probably trying to get people to play because he loves it so much. He's probably trying to convince his friends to take part in it as well. It's just a question. I know that Brent had tweeted about the possibility that people from this season may not be able to participate.
Right.
Just because of contracts and stuff, which will be interesting. Like, I hope Adam's there. I think he'd be one of the most fun people to watch because he knows the game. And I also feel like he will do everything in his power to get on. Like, I don't put it past him to send a letter to CBS being like, I want to do this, let me out. But, you know, who knows if he can do it or not.
TR, I don't mean to scare you, but Adam's looking really weird and cocky behind you.
Looking really weird and cocky.
Hey, Adam. I would love to see you personally play. I think you'd do a really great job. You bring a lot to the mini. So
his face says
His face says I'm in there.
He thinks he might be a hidden immunity idol.
That's right. He was like, wait, is TR an immunity idol? Can I play him?
You cannot play me, Adam. I'm sorry.
I think that he would be really interested in playing. Clearly, he was invested in the BB Sequester mini. He was live tweeting it the entire time. I think it might have been his first time watching. And he was really complimentary of Sequester as a whole in his commentary, which was amazing. And I was so cool. I kept tweeting at him like, yeah, isn't it great? Don't you want to play, Adam, please? Because I would love to see him on there. I think that this is, oh my God, that's so creepy too. I think this game is really up his alley too, because as we saw in Survivor 40, he played really hard and wanted to make moves and was dropping names. And that's exactly what you have to do to get ahead in many of the rounds in Sequester Mini. Ooh, Hayden Moss. I won't lie. I did think about Hayden Moss a lot.
I didn't actually think about him, but I think he would do absolutely so well at this.
Totally.
So,
he thrives at all competitive reality shows, it seems.
Yes.
I can see him.
Oh, sorry.
We said thrives. We said thrives at competitive reality.
I mean, if we have him, I know they're not together anymore, but if we have him, I feel like Kat is like in the streamline somewhere and talks to like do this as well. And that would be absolutely so dramatic and so tumultuous that I can't wait for it.
Could you imagine?
I don't think she would do well because I feel like this is a lot of a social game in a way and strategy based. And so I feel like she would flop, but I feel like she would be so entertaining.
Oh yeah, she would bring the drama real early.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She would, I think she would be a really interesting character. I think that she's matured a lot since she was really young when she played Survivor both times. I think she was literally like 20, 21, and then like 23 or so. No offense to the y'all young people who are on this podcast. But what I'm also saying is like, I think that she's matured a lot. There was, she was on, I can't remember if it was Rob Has a Podcast or something really recently, or no, a Survivor Specialist or something like that. She was on their recap recently, and she definitely comes off as more mature, more like maybe more elevated in gameplay thoughts and such. So I think that she would be very interesting to watch.
She would be very. She has a lot of I feel like just redemption to do in the online competitive. But also, since we're talking about problematic people, somewhat, I think Abby Maria would be amazing.
She's on my list too, Jacob. I would love to see Abby Maria.
Love her on here. She would do amazing.
I would love to see Abby Maria. I think that she, first of all, as we all know, with this coming mini this weekend of the heroes versus villains, we love a good villain. We love somebody who's going to just cause a little bit of chaos, who's going to potentially, drop a name that goes against what the audience might like, or maybe the audience starts rooting for them. And I think that Abby has had all of that experience in her seasons of playing.
Exactly.
See, I mean, it's very like I'm looking to start trouble.
Absolutely.
I feel like there's never been a survivor who's more unpredictable than Abby Maria in terms of like figuring out what her votes are and what she's going to do. And that in Sequester is just a bomb waiting to go off, which would be a lot of fun.
Oh my God.
We need that. We need to start that hashtag. We have to start that.
Sequester is the game for drunk people. Like,
Amanda.
I said Amanda is like on my like honorable mention. Like I listed 10 women and 10 men with honorable mentions, and she was an honorable mention.
I did not think of her.
I didn't think of her either. I feel like I haven't heard from her in a while.
Yeah,
I think that's why it'd be great to see her.
Yeah.
I think that the problem that Survivor did is that they used the same characters so much in the first 20 to 25 seasons that they burned them out, and that's why we really haven't seen a lot of those characters in these returning seasons. And we've seen way more of like the late 20s and early 30s people. So Amanda would be a great person to come back because I don't think she's played since when. Was she?
Yeah,
she wasn't.
Heroes Villains,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Villain.
So it'd be wonderful.
I think she'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I would love to see how she would progress. Anytime I see, like, her and James played together every single season they were on, so I always connect them as like one of my favorite Survivor friendships. But I don't think James is showing up, and that's when I was making this. When I was making this list, I was like, there's a lot of people I would like to see, but they're not walking through this door. Like Twyla is not walking through the door. Frank Harrison is not walking through the door. Like these people are not the type that are going to play Sequester as much as I would love to see them play Sequester. But there's definitely a specific type that's more likely to do this. How many RHAP people do we think are going to do this? Because that was my thing. I mean, they're connected, so they're more likely to play, I would think.
Stephen Fishback, man, he's gonna be.
I think Stephen Fishback. Yeah. I think if contracts allow Tyson because I think Tyson expressed interest before in potentially playing. I could be making that completely up. I don't know. Am I lying to you guys right now? I don't know. But I'm fairly certain though that I did hear that he was potentially interested in playing. I also wonder if someone like Sophie would play. Out of the people who have been on this past season, I feel like Adam, Sophie, and Tyson would be the three people who I think would play a game like this.
Yeah. BK Dean.
Bryce
Dean
probably.
Chilling.
Yeah, I put Bryce on my list. I think Bryce will be there. I feel like Bryce is itching to play something again, and I feel like this is his shot. So if of people who I'm most confident will be there, Bryce is near the top of the list.
Yeah, Bryce is. I didn't think about Bryce when I did my initial list, but the more I've thought about it over the past day or so, I was like, that's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I think Jessica Lewis is a possibility.
Oh,
she'd be a great one.
Yeah,
I didn't think of her either. Dang, I was gonna say, and I don't know how likely she is to come back. And do I think she will play? Probably not, but I would love to see her because I loved her original season in Nicaragua. But Brenda Lowe.
Brenda!
She is like in my top 3 of favorite Survivor players. And her second season wasn't the greatest, but I think she had some iconic moments with Dawn. But those were like problematic. Yes. But I just thought she was so conniving. I thought she was a great social player. She got a lot of like by her looks in her original season in Nicaragua. But I would just love to see how well she does. And like on Sequester, when it's strictly like you communicating with people, forming strategies, and she was a strategist, and she led the charge and controlled a lot of the strategy her season, and so I just would love to see that.
War Dog's on my list.
Yeah,
I think
I'm a big War Dog guy. Love War Dog. Love the War Dog. The War Dog's Twitter, possibly the best Survivor Twitter. I would say.
Twitter, huh?
Someone the chat is saying that PG apparently said that she's saying that she's playing.
Oh wow.
On
Twitter,
that would be
that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
She already said that.
I'm doing it.
I haven't seen that, so I don't think I follow her, to be honest. So
I don't follow her.
But that should be interesting.
No, really interesting. Michaela.
I would love Michaela.
I have on my list.
I feel like she would play. I feel like she really would play, and I can't wait for her if she does her commentary on different things. Like if she has a camera by herself, I think that would be like one of the greatest things that we will see in this whole thing. And so I think that would be really good. And I always wanted her to make it far, and so I feel like now since it's not as much like competition wins, it's just like kind of straight face. I feel like she would do probably better, and so yeah, I would love to see her on there.
I like Ken. I like Ken as a pick.
Ken is interesting. That's another one we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw him once and he fell off the face of the earth. So I would like to see him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that he was a gamer, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
The original video gamer.
Right.
Speaking of Gabon, I'm putting in my vote for Randy Bailey. I don't know how likely this is, but watching him would probably be, I mean, one of the most ridiculous experiences, seeing how grumpy he can be on a game and probably just roasted the entire time.
Please mod that game if Randy plays.
Oh, that would be
Get your mod sticks on. I say Zeke Smith. You guys remember Zeke?
Oh, Zeke. I think Zeke would be a good one.
Yeah,
I would love for him to play. Like, he's just such a character and somebody that hasn't been represented a lot in a lot of mainstream TV. So I would love for him to play, honestly.
I think Zeke
I'm still stuck on Randy.
So somebody who has been very active this past season because of all winners, and he played with quite a few of them and is an old school person, is Lex. I think Lex would be a really fun pick. I think he has a great personality, and I would love to see him come back and absolutely kill it. He's proved that he has really he's a very loyal guy. He's got really great social gameplay, but he's also very strategic. And so I think he would be a lot of fun to watch on this and like pull for the old schoolers.
That would actually be cool.
Yeah. I feel like we're bound to get like one throwback where we're like, totally. Like from the first original seasons. I would love to see Lex. I like Lex a lot. One I have on my list, one of my personal favorite survivors is Shireen. I feel like because she still like plays orgs and stuff. Like I don't see any reason for she does. So I don't see any reason for her not to do this, being that she's in that community already.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I would love
that makes a lot of sense.
You guys think Rob is gonna play? I mean, he kind of has to.
Setsurinino?
Rob Setsurinino, yeah.
I'm interested to see if he would. I would love to see him come back. Obviously, he's played the game already. But I don't know if he was interested. He said that he'd be interested in potentially playing again in the future, but he needed some cool down time. Now, granted, the RHAP one was at the end of March or something like that. So maybe it's been enough cool down time. Maybe 2 months is fine. So I don't know. I think that
I would love to see him.
I would love to see him come back. I think it'd be fun. Oh my God, Shambo.
Shambo.
I'm insane.
Shambo on Sequester, I can die happy.
That would be insane. Wait, do you guys think? I don't think likelihood, but I know he's been commenting a lot about Survivor, like this season. But Richard Hatch.
Ooh.
I think that would be very interesting.
Winner out there.
Yeah.
Or someone like Tina.
I feel like that's the question: is how big are these names gonna get? Right? Like we can, like if we go like real big names, like Hatch would. I mean, Hatch would be incredible. Like I don't know if he would do it, but I mean that's a big deal. If Richard Hatch, the original, I mean, he's a celebrity. He is at the end of the day. Richard Hatch is a celebrity. For him to play Sequester would be really big. And I have like big names from like newer seasons that I think could play. Like I think Devins might play. Like I think Christian might play. Like they're both big fans and would be big gets for the game.
Yeah,
Winworth. I think I can see Winworth playing.
Somebody who I think newer, some names that I think would do from Island of the Idols. I have two people who I think could play. One is Kelly. Kelly Kim, and the other one I think is Elaine. I think Elaine has been really active, and I think that she's got that kind of jovial personality and such. And I just want her to accidentally be stuck in 2 different rooms and be going, dag damn it, I don't know what I'm doing here. And like, I just need that in my life. On top of being able to like try to socially maneuver the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. What I forgot her name, but she was on a couple seasons ago with Kelly, and they worked together. And she also fainted in one of the challenges.
Lauren
Conrad, yes, yes. I would love to see her play. And she's such a fan of the show, and I don't feel like her name's kind of like too big out there. But I always loved her. I was about to bring up Chaos Cast. When you said Chaos,
Cass is on my list.
I was trying to say Chaos Cast. That would be so fun to watch.
It'd be so much fun. Somebody earlier in the chat mentioned Aubrey. I also think Aubrey's a really good choice.
That was the top of my list. Aubrey Bracco.
I like literally think the people who would be really good that like come to my mind are people who are socially good, but also very strategic players. So the people I was trying to come up with are maybe they're more than their character, but they're also like within their character are very strategic or very social. Those are the people that like someone like I don't think we'll see her. I think it'd be an absolute amazing, miracle if we saw her. But someone like Suri would be like amazing.
That'd be a dream.
But that's, her whole thing is that she is such a social and strategic threat. And then you take away the competition level and you've got Suri's game, like laid out for her.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Survivor competitors will put in the work also. Like, I feel like the majority of the survivors are going to like do their research, watch a game beforehand and know what they're doing going in. Like, I feel like they're going to be serious about this in terms of wanting to win and going for it from the start.
Also, Sequester format is kind of more similar to Survivor's format than it is the other reality show, Big Brother. So this is something that will pretty much, it's in their wheelhouse to try to communicate, grab as much allies as you can. So I feel like they could even show us up in playing this game.
Yeah. Did we say Sierra?
Easton or
yes,
Don Thomas?
Yes.
Which is now England? Which both I think would be good. Definitely Sierra. Easton.
I would love, because I feel like she was a bold player who really gave like zero outs and like was like just ready to like play the game so hard. And I feel like a lot of times it's the question, just getting that initial and I feel like these are all like new players, they're probably new to even Sequester, people that are going to play. And I feel like having a person like her who is like just like ready to like gung ho and like, okay, let's get the ball rolling. I feel like it'll make the game faster and just more powerful.
I agree.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll get pairs too, like in terms of, people who are close. If one person plays, the other person will play. Like if we're talking about Joe and we're talking about Sierra, or we're talking about other Sierra and her mom, Laura. Like, I feel like it's a lot more likely to, if you get one, you convince the other to play too. So I feel like we could get that. There'll be more pre-existing relationships than there were as compared to the Big Brother one, where it was kind of split with Canada and the US. Like, there's going to be a lot of intertwined people who already know each other and are looking to stick together, I would think.
Do you guys think we'll get any Australian Survivor players playing?
I think that would be for South Africa or something like that. I'm interested to see if it's just US, and I'll be 100% honest that I only watched like the first 2 episodes of Australian All-Stars this past season, but I haven't watched the rest of it, and I haven't watched any other seasons of any of the other shows.
So, that was the one. I had Nick on my list. He was the final person on my list, just because I feel like he loves games like this so much. I feel like Nick Iadanza. And also, Australia doesn't have, like, as compared to people who we've seen play Sequester at weird hours of the night, like, I feel like Australia works, because if it's at like nighttime here, it's morning time there. So it really shouldn't be that big of an issue for them to wake up and play.
Exactly.
True.
I saw in the chat someone said Jatia, and I would die if Jatia's on the screen. I would die.
Oh my God.
I'm just like laughing, just like thinking about it.
Do we think people are pre-gaming?
No.
It depends. Honestly, I don't think so, because there's not really a cast that has been announced yet.
I think once the cast is announced, because I don't know how it works. Like, I don't know if they know who else is playing ahead of time before the cast is announced or afterwards. I think you can assume that there will be some pretty heavy pre-gaming that happens ahead of time.
I was going to say, judging by how Audrey has kind of kept the heroes versus villains cast completely secret, so there is no pre-gaming, I feel like the likelihood of the survivors not knowing who it's playing, at least until Saturday afternoon when this is released, I don't think they can pre-game yet. But once it's released, it's going to be on. Everybody's going to be talking to anybody. There's really no avoiding it. But
getting the fans involved and things like that, I feel like it'll just be more intense with pre-gaming because the pressure will be on. I feel like with that. The team versus ring versus insanity.
I want to be in that room. I want to watch that. Yeah, I had. Shawnee.
That would be amazing. What about? I can't believe we haven't said his name, but Cochran.
I think he's a really good pick for a game like this. I don't know if he would play. I honestly would love for him to play something like this. Because I agree. I think anytime you have those the people who are known for being nerdy overthinkers. I even think of someone like Spencer. Those are people who would be really good for this. Or even we put Adam into that category too, I would say. I think he'd be great. I think
he didn't want to do Winners at War, right?
He didn't want to do Winners at War. He was, I think, one of 2 people who I don't know if there might have been more. I heard that he and Giuseppe both turned it down.
Oh wow.
But I could be wrong. Again, I don't know if my sources are correct. I couldn't even tell who my sources are. And I think Dominic would be awesome.
Was a big incredible for sure.
Yeah. I think Dominic would
have a really big target on his back though.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wish I'm hoping these names that we're saying actually do go out to play. I hope they're not too afraid to just try out Sequester.
Right.
Because they'll do amazing in this game. Really incredible.
It's really fast paced, really just on the go. Dom is a really good choice.
It seems like the way it's being built up, there's going to be some pretty big names. I think we're in for some surprises. Shane Powers would be hilarious.
That would be funny.
I have other people that I don't think would necessarily be who you would immediately think of, but I think would be who fit the mold of being able to play a fast, adaptable game.
Exactly.
And so I'll just quickly lay them out there. But Alfred from South Pacific, he's Sophie's Ride or Die in that season. This one, I don't think he's going to be playing at all. I think because of circumstances and such. But how great would it be if we were able to watch Jonathan Penner?
Yeah.
I don't think he'll play. I just want to put that out there. That I think
that'd be insane. Yeah, I would love that.
Malcolm, I put Malcolm down. He's really actually very.
I have a thought about Malcolm.
Yeah.
And I am very interested in seeing how he would do without challenges. Because I agree he's very socially strategic. I don't feel like he had that opportunity to be that as much because he was such a big target with competition wins. As along with a person named Joe, I feel like they kind of have similar games, but Joe has more likability than Malcolm had on his original season. So I would love to see Malcolm play without challenges and just letting his strategic mind and social game be the head.
I'd like to see Malcolm against Joe.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. I also had Coach. I think Coach would be really funny to watch in a Sequester mini.
Oh, Coach would be insane. Yes, I would love that.
Cause a little, and somebody who I don't think we talk enough about in terms of chaos causing, but just because he played at the end of the day, he went in the very beginning, the jury in the Philippines, but Peter Yukowski. He is.
That's interesting.
He's he's not super well known if you're not someone who's gone through and watched it, but he has he's someone who pit Abby Maria against RJ. And it was just really masterfully done. But he's somebody who I feel would drop names. He would not necessarily be a big target, and I could see him moving through the cast really easily.
Yeah. I feel like it's an opportunity for players like that too, who played a good game on Survivor, but maybe would never be asked back necessarily because they're not memorable enough to play another game like that. I mean, there's only so many opportunities. That's why I play it, is that, I knew I was never going to be on Survivor. I was never going to get that chance. And I feel like there's only so many venues that you can play a game like this. So if you really do love something like this, this is your chance to do it.
I agree, Marcus. Yeah.
Queen Sandra. I would love that.
I just want the idol head to make an appearance. That's what I'm hoping for.
I also said Jerry. I thought like old school, just get it going. She would be great. And the last person I put down is, besides the genetic code of Nadia and Natalie Anderson, she's the only person that has been voted out twice first. I think Francesca deserves a chance to come in here and show us what to do, because she's got a biting, like strategic. Like you could tell that she's really strategic, and you can tell that she has I don't want to say an attitude, because that's not what it is, but she has like a swagger about her, and I think that she could do really well in a game like Sequester, and I would love to see her get a chance like this.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to see her get past the first boot. It would be nice.
If she didn't, I honestly would be like, Jerry, reroll. Just reroll. Yeah. You gotta let her at least get past round 1. That's it.
Yeah. You'll go to one of the other Survivor Two house, unplug their Wi-Fi, and they'll just have to be eliminated. Francesca's voted out first. You'll just have to name 5 names.
Oh my God, could you imagine? I just like
that makes you think of Special Agent Philip, though.
What was that? Oh, yeah. Oh my God, Philip Shepard.
You're on the same page as Trevor here in the chat.
I would love that so much. Mostly because, for anybody who's modded, you know that you spend the first hour before it goes live helping them get set up with technical stuff. And I love Philip. I literally do. I think he's like such an amazing character that's been on that show. And I literally would just love to be like, Philip, we still can't hear you. Can you make sure your mic is on? And just like trying to set him up through technical.
That would be a mess. Oh my goodness.
That'd be
that
so
would be
cute.
so funny. It would be so like I love like the chaotic people, because like they are so bold in their gameplay, and they think their gameplay is like the best gameplay that Survivor has like ever seen. And I like that conviction that they have. And it's kind of like no one can tell, and they think they're leading the pack. And like I want someone to feel like they're leading the pack, and to get like the rug to like be pulled under them. And I think that's just like such a funny moment that always happens in Survivor.
I love it.
That'd be so good. Who else do I have?
Oh, the last person. I'm sorry. An honorable mention I put that we haven't talked about is T-Bird. I would love to see T-Bird come back. She's so awesome, and she was also doing a lot of pre-Survivor 40 stuff in celebration of Ethan. So it would be great to see her come back too.
Yeah, and I feel like she's been eager to play again too. So I agree. I feel like I have David Wright on mine. Probably my second favorite Survivor of all time, not named Frank Garrison.
Really?
Shout out Frank Garrison. I would love to see David Wright play, and I feel like he'd be a good player, and I feel like he's likely to do it. Like he loves this kind of stuff.
I think
feel like it's possible.
I have one. I'm looking up her name right now, but you guys can probably tell me. She worked with Dom and Wendell. It's going blank in my head. Laurel. I think Laura was like an amazing like person on Survivor, and her social game and her like strategy, the way she was involved in a lot of strategy. So I would just like to see her mind and like the way she works without like being attached to 2 powerhouse names in the game. How she works individually, because I feel like as an individual game, she didn't play bad. I think out of the three, she deserved 3rd place. But I do think that she would really do well, like amongst like just normal people in a sense.
And if her and Dom play again and she just backstabbed Dom, that'll be so full circle. Just full circle.
Man, could you imagine a situation in Ghost Island where the Final 4 had to do a Sequester style Final 4? With Laurel, Wendell, Dom, and I don't remember who the 4th place person was.
Yeah, me do that.
I don't remember either. Donovan? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. But.
Dang, that's actually a good one.
Ooh, speaking of Sequester, what type of twist are we going to be expecting in this?
That's another thing. Are we going to see any like Survivor themed anything? I personally think it would be fun, though I don't know how plausible, if instead of the green dot LOS, it looked like a mini little idol.
I think that I was thinking. I was like, I think that will be something.
That plus they could do like a a Ghost Island type of returnee, like not Ghost Island. Wait, Ghost Island wasn't a returnee season. Like an Edge of Extinction type of returnee.
I'm interested to see. I think that I've gathered just from watching the past few minis, I don't think that we're doing many buybacks, but will there be? Is there going to be a Redemption Island Skype chat that's happening? I don't know. I think
I could see if any mini were to have another buyback, this would be the one.
Yeah. Exactly. In the spirit of Survivor. You got it.
We have that. Do you guys think what do you guys think the chances of us having a final 3 this game?
Oh.
So would we do a dragging at final 5 maybe instead of in lieu of a comp?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I like that idea actually.
That'd be pretty cool.
You could even still do a comp at 6, keep the punishments at 7 if you wanted. Just move it all back around.
I would like that. I would like that.
I would love for there to be the 7 Deadly Sins thing with Survivor players, just because first of all, I find that so freaking entertaining.
That is my favorite twist. I'm so sad that happened.
I want there to be different things, not just like speaking in the third person. Like I would love for there to be a whole bunch of other stuff.
People need to submit more punishment ideas.
I submitted one and I can't wait to see if it happens or not. I'm not going to say what it is because if it does happen,
you want the credit. You want the clout.
Yeah,
I got you.
You believe me, I will absolutely be shouting it from the rooftops if I came up with it.
Yeah, I have one more name. I have one more name. What about Courtney?
One of my other favorites. Yes.
Yeah.
Courtney, that sounds familiar.
I thought he was screen earlier, but I think Christian and Gabby would both potentially be really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Christian is one of my top wants, just because his brain is so good at just knowing. Like, if you watched any of the Ponderosas on his season and just how he or listened to his 7-hour podcasts with Rob, like his mind on games like this is so expansive, and watching it go towards Sequester, I think would be so much fun to watch in terms of how he handles these different types of votes in different rounds. So if there's one person that I really, really want to see, it is Christian.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'd be really great. He's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I have one more person on my list. I got Ty Trang. You guys remember Ty? I don't think he's going to do something like this, but I would just love that, that type of energy on a game that's just all so cutthroat and so vicious. Yeah. I think it would just shake up the dynamics if he was on there.
All right, guys. Ultimate here. Will we see Jeff Probst?
God.
Oh my gosh, that would be the best thing.
I would love for him even to make a cameo intro video from his garage.
I know. Survivor. I would love for him just to say that.
That would be great.
Dude, he should do it. He got to set it everything.
We should all tweet him and
Audrey needs to just isolate the soundbite of him going, "It is time to vote," and play that at the end of the round.
She should be Jeff Probst. Just keep talking.
Could you imagine that? You know what? It's not out of the realm of possibility for him. I think it is out of the realm of possibility for him to play. That's not what I'm saying. But it's not even out of the realm of possibility that he doesn't become aware that this is happening or anything, because Arissa Cox was really pushing. And there were Big Brother producers and CBS producers who watched the BB Can one as well. So, and it was because of that success that I think the Survivor one's even happening. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's somewhere on the radar. I don't know if he's necessarily going to engage with it or not, but I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility.
I would love a tweet or something like that.
A retweet.
A tweet or something like him tweeting out, "Hey, I would die. Die."
He gets close with those contests. If one of his friends is on who's played, I feel like he's more likely to watch. He's pretty close with a lot of the contestants. So I feel like if they cast one of them, then there's a better shot of him at least being aware of it.
Right.
He loved the show. He loves the people. So if the people on it, you might watch. And that's all we need. Honestly.
Did we say John Fincher?
Oh no.
I was thinking of him. I wrote his name down just based off of when I was watching the Ponderosa videos today, and I saw him in a clip. I like that would be so. Do I think he'll probably not? But any kind of lineage to poverty, that would be amazing. Really cool. And I really loved him his season 2. I thought he was really good.
My God! So Gabe in the chat who said Winners at War weird song plays in the intro. When we did the RHAP mini before we went live, anybody who's played a mini, so everyone here know that you have an hour of just sitting there. You can't have your phone on. You can't be talking to anybody. You're just waiting for sound checks and those kind of things and for the game to get going. And so I think it was Bill Methling went over his room and played the "You Better Be Ready" song, and they kind of reacted, whatever. And in our little mod chat, he said, "I just did that," and I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to do it." But I sang it, and I got into the mic and went, "You better be ready. They're coming for you," like that.
Are you the actual person that sings that? Wait, are you the person that sings that?
Oh my God, my secret sound. But I did that, and I had Mike Bloom, Melissa, Puya, and Jenny in my room. And Jenny and Melissa were like, "What is this?" And Mike Bloom and started laughing. But Puya got scared out of his mind. It's not like I popped in to be like, "Hey guys, I have something to say," and then did it. I just popped in and started singing it, and he literally went, "Oh!" Really funny.
That'd be so funny. Huh.
It will forever be one of my favorite random Survivor facts that Jeff Probst wrote that. And then he was like, you know what? This needs to be on every episode. This is phenomenal.
Oh, I didn't know he wrote it.
He wrote it. Yeah.
Oh.
He claims. I don't know. Do we think Jeff
he claims.
He wrote that song?
He wrote the song.
That's what he says. He says he wrote it. He came up with it in the shower and then called up his friends and he said, "Oh, I just happened to be in a recording studio with a girl. Hey, what are you singing?"
Someone needs to give Jeff Probst a record deal. Stat. Wow.
Is it a full song or is it just the "You Better Be Ready"?
Just here they come.
And I love how like at different on different episodes we got an expanded version of that song. And I was like, I literally loved it at every moment.
Hold up. I've been watching this whole season. I've never heard that song.
Are you kidding
You
me?
haven't?
What show have you been watching?
What? Okay, you know what?
You're watching
every episode together, and then you will eventually get the full song because there'll be times where it makes no sense
that
that song
plays
background.
Yeah,
they'll be like, "Oh, we're doing an endurance challenge," and all of a sudden you hear some woman go, "Ah, ah, ah."
Where was I at? Wait,
the bass line going.
Oh my goodness.
The worst thing about this, the finale not being live is the fact that you just know that there would be a live band on the side when Jeff Probst goes to commercial and be like, "And take us out with that beautiful song," and they would all be playing. You just know that was destined to happen, and we were robbed of it, which is very sad.
About that, I really do feel like we were robbed of it because then it would be absolutely revealed that I was the singer, and I just be sitting. No,
that'd be iconic.
It was garage because of quarantining and such. So you guys didn't get it. So
I really expected Sia to zoom in and give some.
money. I remember that though. I remember that.
What the hell?
Did you think that Sia was going to give millionaires money?
I guess you're probably right. You're right.
Good point.
Sorry, that came out so shady.
It's a valid point though. It's a valid point that I didn't consider though. So that's it's
oh my! Yeah, I think.
Can I say, Beth, you got a better mic than Jeff Probst, bro? Like this mic was so trash today. I was like, "There's no way you got all this setup and your mic sounds like that."
Listen, I invested less than $100 on this mic.
I have the same mic as you.
I know you guys both have a incredible mic.
Sir, buy it on Amazon. You knew this was coming.
You knew this was coming for months.
4 months.
Oh
my God!
Wait, how did y'all?
Such a bitch. I did not mean it like that.
How did y'all feel about going back to like the finale? How did y'all feel about not having a reunion? Because I, for one, I love the reunion because I feel like it just like makes it an overall like full circle moment. Even though I feel like we had that on the finale. But I heard that most of the people were actually like mad at each other and like had like lingering hardships towards each other. Some people did. It was on. Maybe I'm lying. I don't know, based on y'all's faces. But I
just think it's interesting.
Yeah. I've heard that somewhere that I think like Evil Dig tweeted out. He was like, something. I think some people were actually pissed at something like other people, and so I would just like I would so.
But they all clapped for each other.
Yeah, he's a little dramatic.
They all clapped for each other.
Maybe it was Sarah mad at. I don't know. Sarah still pissed off at Boston Rob and Amber. I don't know, but
yeah.
I think what more likely happened is they were planning on doing a reunion, at least even throughout all of the presses came out this past week. It was going to be 2 hours and plus a 1 hour reunion. Like that's what they were talking about. I think what's more likely is they found out they just didn't have the technical ability to do so with 20 people on cameras in the way that wouldn't come across as like anybody doing a Zoom meeting. I think it probably wasn't up to the production quality that they wanted. Maybe some people were dropping out because they don't have as nice of a home internet as Jeff Probst or whatever. But or maybe he couldn't handle that as a host. I don't know. It's not like people like streaming like here. You know, it requires a little bit more finesse and technology. So I think that's probably happen more than
I saw all of them dressed up in like their little cubes. I'd like it was like for a split second they were on.
I know. I was like, oh, they actually look really nice. Like all 20 of them together.
Yeah, we discussed this on my weekly meltdown tonight. Rob and Amber were in front of the same painting, so we don't think it was live that they were on. I think they were just like had to film a section of them being like,
which would make sense because they weren't used for anything other than that. So.
Except for the final three. And that's it.
Right. Of course, them. But.
Exactly.
Even that, though, I mean, I feel like that was my biggest problem with it was just the ending felt so rushed with Tony and just kind of like got him out of the way as quickly as possible. Like, I realize I think it's for the best they didn't do an online reunion. I don't think that would be fun to watch at all. But I wish they took a little bit more time at the end with the winner because I felt like they got off the air so quick.
Exactly. But other than that, I think Jeff's setup was really amazing. I really like that. It kind of for all the other shows with all this like live and all these broadcasting, they did a pretty good job with Survivor.
It's impressive him and his family were able to put all that shit together. I don't know if you guys saw the video that was on Twitter that was more or less similar to the intro he did at the top of the episode, but it was slightly longer. And it showed like the cameras and all the wires and all that setup. It looked complicated. It looked very complicated. So it's impressive they all did it.
Yeah, I was impressed that they were able to do all the setup, that he had all the cameras, that Jeff learned to be a one-person production team. I'm interested
20 years.
Were the camera operators, were they able to do that remotely? I'm sure they were. But it was just
they did remotely.
But yeah, I don't know. I loved it. I thought it was great. I agree. I wish we would have had more time, at least with Tony. And I agree with Angelica who said I felt like this was a little tone deaf with like the hey, in these financially unstable times, I'm not affected. Plus with the shot of like his beautiful home in the background. But like I do think like I understood there wasn't any malice in that. And like, it wasn't malicious. He was honestly trying to say like, hey, I thought where he was going with this is, hey, I have a lot of people who like owe like rent or something like that. And I want to try to use this to like forgive rent or something. Like, I don't know where he was going with that, but I don't think that, this is a hard time to say anything if you're winning $2 million and not come across like weird. I don't know.
I was hoping with that, and also going back to the Sia thing, I was hoping that somebody would mention Penner and what Yul was trying to do. Like, I thought that's where the Sia money would go. And, that didn't happen. And then when Tony started bringing that up, I hoped Tony would do something, but it basically just didn't get mentioned at all, which at the very least, I would have liked to at least been brought up because it was such a big thing. I mean, it was mentioned in one episode, but just on social media this season.
And they had a commercial or something for it, like a promo or something like that for it. Not a promo, but... once he said that, if he I would not like that.
So here's the thing. We also discussed this tonight. They're actually casting right now for season 43. So 41 and 42, I guess, are set. So I don't even know if 16-year-olds are actually going to play or if they're looking for them to potentially cast in a few seasons down the road. I mean, there's Adam was supposed to play in Blood versus Water with his mom, and in that season, and then she got sick, and so they didn't play, and so he got cast and played like 2 seasons later instead. So I think that they use a lot of people who made it far in other seasons that they really wanted to use them in, and try to get a good sense for who might be coming up, who's young. I don't know if that necessarily means all of a sudden we're going to see a whole bunch of Gen Zers versus millennials, but all I know is that they didn't get
technically a Gen Z
correctly last time. They were like, "Here's this 70-year-old." I'm like, "That is not Gen X." Here's a high school senior. That is not millennial. I'm a millennial. 31.
I'm a Gen Z.
We're Gen Zs. I just found that out. I thought that meant like we're last generation. I was like, oh, the world's ending.
I'm still waiting for the first like offspring of a player to play, right? Like somebody's kid
to play.
Yeah, I feel like that's bound to happen at some point.
I mean, did we kind of have that though with Blood versus Water, a little offspring of like people's
that's true.
a little bit.
That's true. Yeah.
That would be so funny. Like one of Boston Rob's, one of their daughters. I know they can't no time soon, but like at that time, hopefully Survivor's still around. And
now that they're lowering the age limit, they could play the 16.
Season. Yeah, when they said 16, I was like, wait, what?
I mean, there's enough of them. They could just have a full season together, right?
Can they walk? Can they walk? Can they run? Can they talk? They
Survivor Kids.
There you go.
This is Survivor Kids.
If you watch Boston Rob's Instagram, he has a whole video of one of his daughters who's like 8 years old using a machete and flint and coconut husk to make fire.
Training her. He is training her. She should change her name. Just get off social media for a few years. Change your name to something like Selena, and then come on the show. And then at the end, believe it or not, you guys, I'm Bob's. No, not
Bob.
Rob fake fan. She would, in order to go really deep undercover, she'd have to wear a Yankees hat, and I don't know if her father would let her.
No. Disowned immediately.
Yes. Even if she won, that alone.
Yeah.
I would love to see that though. Wow.
That would be great.
I could make Boston have a training the kids. Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
They've like really set up little like obstacle courses, such as if they're Survivor.
They can all build fire already. Trust me, they can all build fire.
Another moment that I really love.
You're grounded if you can't build fire.
Can't build fire. Did
you guys go to their
one of the sweetest moments I felt like this season, kind of going back to season 40, was when they talked about how they were after their original season and like trusting people and it's like mental things. I thought that was so like, because you never think about like, hey, how can living on this island for 39 days, deceiving people and not knowing who you can fully trust for 39 days, you're never put in that position in like normal day life. And so I felt like that was so just nice to see, and it was like a very tender moment.
Yeah, it's not something that's discussed a lot between people who leave Big Brother or Survivor. Survivor, you're there for like, let's say like a little over 40 days from the time you fly out and do press and like all that stuff, and then when you leave, but and then all the elements and all the stuff on top of that make it incredibly hard. Yeah. Big Brother, you're there for like 100 days plus. I know. And that's incredibly hard. Like imagine trying to assimilate back into life and like trying to come back to a reality where people aren't straight up lying and manipulating you for every little thing like they were in the environment you were. Stress time. It's got to be incredibly difficult to adjust to that. So I agree. I loved that conversation.
Yeah. I think in general this season I like that they touched upon all of that and like how Survivor affects them, and also how, when they went home, how they thought about themselves and how other people thought about their games. And I feel like a lot of them came in with something that they wanted to accomplish while they were there. Like, Sophie saying that she thought she was a bottom tier winner, and Tyson, talking about how Survivor has been his entire life for the last 10 years. I thought like really diving into that and seeing how Survivor has changed these people when, you look at them, their first season when they were brand new as to now, I think it's really, really interesting to watch.
And I also really appreciated the conversation last night of the gender bias as well, because I think that is very prevalent in watching Survivor. I'm a big fan of it. And I was really impressed that Jeff Probst, first of all, that he said it and it was kept in the edit, that he was like, I know that I've contributed to this. And that
him admitting that.
That's a really big step. And I think that especially after season 39 with all of the Me Too stuff that got addressed, and I think that they handled it well after the fact. I think that they learned a lot. I think that these are really serious conversations of all kinds of inclusiveness, not just diversity, but how do you be diverse and then be inclusive to people of all different identities. That was a really welcomed conversation. So I'm interested to see how they take that and move it forward. And I don't know. Those kind of conversations, I'm pretty happy Survivor's having them. And
hopefully it will continue to happen throughout like different seasons. And I feel like kind of this is like one aspect that I love about Survivor. I feel like we always get those tender and sweet moments versus like, not kind of paint a comparison, but my mind just went here with like Big Brother. I feel like we don't get like and I don't know why we don't. I feel like they're longer, like relationships are like they're longer for a longer period of time. But I feel like on Survivor we just get a very like tender to like see who like the people actually are instead of Big Brother.
I think Big Brother tends to lean like wackier. You get more like bits and segments and like gags and silly little things like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
And Big Brother, just from a production side and editing side, they tend to try to shy away from talking about the things that are happening. But what's happening is like people are watching it on live feeds and say, no, here's video evidence that this happened, even if you didn't put it in your show. We don't have live feeds of what happened on the island. We're watching a very heavily edited version of it.
Exactly.
So the fact that they have chosen to keep in things like Jamal and Jacob, I believe was his name from last season, their conversation about race, having conversations about sexual abuse or harassment, conversations about gender bias, those kind of things are like pretty impressive. And I really hope that the production team at other shows, specifically like Big Brother, will continue to take a look at it.
Yeah.
And to bring it all back to what we all love, that's what I love so much about the Sequester community is that we're very diverse and inclusive. And I honestly feel like people don't vote out people or have horrible conversations. First of all, there's not time to do that in a game.
Yeah.
I think that we're a very accepting community, and we love people for what they're bringing to the game, and are respectful of perspectives that we might not share. And that's what I really love about the community itself. So maybe Survivor and Big Brother, once Sequester continues to blow up, can learn from us as a community.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the thing.
If they just get a list of the winners, that's all you need to know. Like, hey, like we are pretty diverse in our own right, and I really appreciate that from Sequester.
I mean, the casting of Sequester is more representative of the country as a whole than we look at like Survivor or Big Brother. Like we're, the Sequester community is a good representation, and it's what it should be on any of these CBS reality shows.
Definitely. And then within those white dude winners, because I don't know for sure, I'm not going to speak, but you might also have people who identify as, like gay or LGBTQ in some way. Like there's a lot of intersectionality with this too. I really like that.
That's so crazy. It makes me giggle, bro. Like I had to tell my dad. I was like, "You see this, Dad? Look at that. I'm the only gay one." But just to touch back to the whole Survivor versus Big Brother, like the editing of it and what they show. Big Brother's edited it by the week. Like they legit have to cram a whole week into one episode. Survivor's they had their story planned and they could show their story since there's no story that we know. So
that's true.
It's not Big Brother's fault for being ugly. It's the casting that they have.
No, it's true.
At the end of the day, I always feel it's the casting. Like the casting, when you look at who gets cast on Big Brother, it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
I think that's something I'm looking forward to. The first season of Big Brother I watched was Big Brother 16, so I'm really a more recent Big Brother fan.
Wow.
The feeds and everything since then. I haven't gone back and watched the old seasons, but one thing
you messed up.
There's some good ones you gotta watch. There's some really
That's why you don't like Big Brother. That's why you don't like.
That's why you gotta go back and watch some of the classics.
We are so actually, and I don't mean to plug my own podcast, so I apologize.
Go ahead, plug away. But
on my weekly meltdown, what we're going to be starting this coming week is we're going to go back and watch and talk about Big Brother 10.
Amazing!
Best season to talk about.
That's exactly what everyone's saying. They're like, Big Brother 10, you got to watch it.
It's just all around. You haven't seen it? You haven't?
I've never seen it.
Do you know who the winner is? Do you know what happens in it? Okay, well, Gotcha. Okay.
It's dramatic.
Yeah.
Even still, even knowing the winner, there's just so much to that season that's
So
just
many
worth
characters,
seeing
bro.
in full. So many fights, so much strategy, so much
Yeah.
meltdowns in the first episode, like screaming matches night one.
I
Incredible.
forgot about that.
Actually, my favorite Big Brother contestant is, well, of course Dan is great, but my favorite Big Brother contestant came from Big Brother 10. It was Keisha. She's like my favorite Big Brother
Keisha's
contestant.
pretty fantastic.
She's never mentioned. She's never mentioned, and it pisses me off. But she is one of my favorite Big Brother.
You see her meme all the time, though. You always
Keisha's
see her.
birthday. You can't go too far. Yeah.
That's what I can't wait for, because people talk about Keisha's birthday and I have no idea what
so fucking great. It's
a classic reality TV moment.
Bro, y'all are making me back.
I just see a woman clapping, and that's all I get. I don't understand the context. So
Well, happy birthday.
I'm excited to watch it. What we're basically doing is watch 3 episodes a week, and then we'll watch it on our own, and then come together and talk about it. So if y'all want to see someone's fresh perspective on that season, you'll have to tune in.
Oh my goodness, I would love that. Love that.
Also, BB Can 5. Anybody's new to Big Brother, BB Can 5 is a great introduction.
Yeah, I gotta watch
that series, bro.
Yeah.
I gotta watch that one. I haven't seen any of the BB Can ones.
Oh, you have? Oh,
I've only seen 8. That was it.
5 is the best one. You only seen 8 this time? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, five is the best one, and 5 is the best one. Yeah,
I can't wait. But yeah, so that's what we're not gonna. I doubt we're gonna get BB22 this summer or in a timely fashion. I think it will probably happen in the fall once things are like a little bit more lifted.
A spooky Halloween themed house would be something.
That'd be wonderful.
Oh, that'd be good.
You know how they do the haunted house challenge? They've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
They did it with the celebrity house.
The Have-Not house or the Have-Not room is its own haunted house. It's characters that won't let you sleep. They just come out and pop out at you.
And it's a dark room too, and so it's completely black. And that'll be hilarious. Like anyone in there.
Just turn off the lights.
Oh my God, we're moving into the Big Brother house. And they open the door like, I can't see anything. And then there's I just cover their face with like a clown mask on.
Yeah. I always love the HOH competitions where for the few days leading up, they have people hiding behind and like killer clowns and stuff jumping out at them, and then they have to remember what happened. Like that's always quality television.
I remember that.
I will say this because I know this happened in Big Brother. I've heard it talked about a lot, and it definitely happened in Survivor. And one thing I hope comes back in both of these competitions is the "How bad do you want it?" competition.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Put your hand on this button, this stand on this post that doesn't require any other kind of like endurance aspect to it, but just like be here for 12 hours if you want it.
I want to see the pressure cooker. God, I know it'll never come back.
Amazing.
It'll never come back.
You
don't know what that is? It was an endurance comp from season 6 that lasted like 13 hours or some crazy thing.
Wait, why don't you think it will come back?
Well, I thought I had read that like production hasn't done anything like it since that long because of the sheer amount of time it took, and they did not expect it to last that long. Like they were thinking maybe like 3, 4, 5 hours, and then it lasted like 13 hours. And
it was so good.
I remember watching the feeds on that live, and I was in high school and I was watching it, and eventually had to go to bed because I needed to be up the next morning for school. I went to school, got home the next day, and it was still going. Like Acer and Jennifer were still there after a full day of school. They were still there.
Can't wait. Describe the competition. That's the one
so
where
they're trapped in a glass box, and they all have to press a button, right? And then as they get eliminated in the order of elimination, there are mystery boxes in the middle of the box that they're in that have either rewards or punishments. So they'll be like, oh, here's like a little bar and you can make yourself a drink, or here's a box full of dead fish and now everyone has to smell it. And they can only be released from the box in like 3-person increments. So the first person might get out, but they still have to sit and stand in the box and like wait until the other 2 people are eliminated before the first group can leave. So it just was a long thing. Yeah.
But I love that. I see that's the kind of thing I wish they would like make the time for, because I'm sorry, like what do you want us to just have 12 hours of feeds where they're sitting around doing nothing?
No.
Like those
have 12-hour feeds where they're stuck in a box. I would rather that.
So that the live feed people can watch it. Like why is that any like I don't understand like why they don't make some of the competitions watchable on the feed still. Like
Man, we just need new we just need new directors, just like.
I'm going to go back and watch that pressure cooker competition. I'm going to go tonight. I'm going to go back and watch it.
Even Survivor, I'm confused why. Like, I mean, my favorite challenges from the early season are the same thing. Like, how bad do you want it? Especially at like final 3, when it's like, this is literally all or nothing. Just sit there, stand there as long as you can. And I'm confused as to why they're trying to make them go quicker and quicker. Like this season, with the arm up with the bucket, like now you couldn't use your other hand. It was like they wanted it to be over in a half hour. And I'm not quite sure why, when the most dramatic thing about it is seeing people there for hours and hours just fighting as desperately as they can.
It was interesting. I think it was an interview with Jeff, and they were talking about the competition. The one that Christian won, where he was talking forever and ever and ever. And he was like, he couldn't believe that it lasted that long. And then they realized it was because they didn't force the contestants to have their back up against it the entire time. Like they allowed them to kind of move around a little bit more. So Christian was able to kind of like bend forward or do different things or whatever while he was on that. But before they had to be in this position, which made it harder. So I think that they find that sometimes, like I agree, like I think it's dramatic when you could see, honestly, they could lie to us. They could be like 5 hours later, and it's like actually like 10 minutes.
Yes.
They're not gonna know any different. They're sweaty anyway. They're dropping like flies. Just pretend like it's more time. Like, what are they gonna do? Be like, no, we were actually only up there for 30 minutes. No, we try to make you look good, bro. Keep it up.
Yeah, I saw in the chat. Yeah, so Australian Survivor does it at Final 3. They have endurance. Also, endurance on Survivor Maryland, which I love, like does the same thing in the college campus. Like keep your hand on this pole. Whoever wants it the most wins immunity at the end.
Survivor Maryland. I've never heard of Survivor Maryland.
You've never heard of Survivor Maryland? It's a big deal. It's wonderful. Yeah, it's just on a college campus.
Must not be that big of a deal. I haven't heard of it.
I mean,
It's part about that was Sandra behind you. She was like, "Good one, TR."
Thanks, Sandra. Sandra's got my back. That's my friend right here.
Don't you smack her in the face.
I'm trying to give her a high five, but it's not really,
smack her in the face.
It's not working out.
when I say big deal, I mean that the quality of it is very high. Like it's very high, quality in terms of you'd be surprised how well it's produced, how well it's edited, how well it's shot. I think it's definitely worth a watch, especially the later seasons.
Survivor Maryland. Okay.
Do you know where one can watch it?
Yeah,
it's on YouTube.
Oh,
it's on YouTube.
Great.
So check that out on YouTube.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I love TR, but no one is replacing my Denise. Okay, she is the Queen Slayer. Thank you very much. I'm a Denise fan. That is me.
Just to return back to Winners at War at the end. If we were who did we want to win? Who did you think was going to win? I just want to know because I wanted Natalie to win, but obviously, I thought Tony deserved
out of the final 3.
Out of everybody, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted Denise to win. She's one of my all-time favorite winners. I think she's very underrated, and I also think she's completely under-edited. She, as a therapist, she has a approach to social and strategic gameplay that's very different. And I think that she's been a victim both times of people not really understanding all of her moves because there's someone flashier or maybe like a better storyteller that what CBS wants to put out. So like her original season, it was Malcolm. Like you're going to want to watch Malcolm more than you're going to want to watch Denise. And then this time around, I felt like she had some really questionable moves that I sat back and I was like, I would have loved some more context for this. And in these post interviews, I'm finding out like, oh, well, she was a little over it at the end. Like she was a little stressed. And so getting out when she did was fine. But she's who I wanted. And I definitely, when I got to the final 3, I thought Tony should have won. So I was happy that he won, but I wouldn't have been mad with any of the 3 of them winning. I thought they all played really great games in their own way. They all really killed it at Final 3 Tribal too. It's one of the best Final 3 where every single one of them owned their game and explained it in a really great way.
I know, it's so crazy. Even when they were saying, like the jury was telling them, like, "Hey, congratulations, guys!" I was clapping for them too, man. It really did do a good job.
I thought Tony should have won out of the final three. I just enjoyed watching his game, preferred his game. I would have liked to see Michelle get a little bit of votes. The final three, I love. Any of them could have won, and I would have been happy. But I'm super happy that Tony won, respectfully wise. But I kind of wanted Michelle to have more votes. And I was really rooting for Jeremy. And Jeremy had a very stressful, driven game. Exactly. And it every episode I was stressed out of watching him.
I know it's hard.
And so, but I think I think he plays hard. I think this season he wasn't I would have liked to see him be more loyal to Michelle rather than kind of seeing his afterthoughts, and he was kind of more loyal to Tony in a lot of ways. So his judgment calls wasn't always on par or 100% with a lot of path, but I really was rooting for Jeremy, and I loved Wendell, and I love their little bro big bro relationship. But Wendell was he was just competitions. He just made comments. I was like, "What are you doing, boy?"
I know Wendell's gotten this time around a lot of hate, but I actually enjoyed Wendell more this season. I thought we saw so much more of Wendell and saw a more complete. I mean, I thought he was great. I always liked him, but I liked him more.
The straw in his mouth, a little.
He came off as a character in this season, which was actually kind of needed. We needed more villains in this game when everybody is somebody you rooted for in the show, pretty much. I feel like in this season we kind of had different dynamics because you got all the people who were on top in their season. So when they got into a season where there's not going to be a top, there's going to be a bunch of bottoms. They all kind of crumble. Jeremy, Kim, they weren't lying when they say I'm not used to this position. And
right.
I'm not trying to talk sexually.
How do we feel about this question right here?
Ooh. I have a lot of thoughts.
please go ahead.
I don't like the fire making challenge for
I don't either.
reasons. And I think that last night was actually really, really good. Both Ben and Tony are really good examples of this, which is when you put a fire, when you can have immunity idols come into the game at Final Five and still be played, there comes a time where you don't have a vote before Final Tribal Council where somebody is completely vulnerable. If Tony had been completely vulnerable at Final Five, he would have been going home. But there was no way for him to do that because of idols, and he actually won, so that was fine. That was a different thing. But you take away that ability for someone to be completely vulnerable, and people who normally would be voted out at 4, which are typically bold men because of the gender bias thing we talked about. Women who play in that role typically get voted out before Final Four, but men typically get to stick around a little bit longer. That would normally be where you get rid of a Rick Devens, who did get that way, but just because of the fire-making challenge left. You get rid of a Ben who should have gone at Final Four, in which case Chrissy probably would have won. You get rid of a Tony at that point as well. So the Final Four, when you have a fire making challenge, I don't think that making fire is inherently a more male skill. I really don't think that, but I think in terms of gameplay, what it does is it gives us a life vest to the big bold player who otherwise would get voted out at 4, which. And instead of making it about this purely the social gameplay, did you underplay your game enough? And instead it rewards big, bold play, which is what production likes to see because it's more exciting for a viewer. So that's why I think, we've had a lot of women make it to the final 3, and there's not been many votes. This is the most votes that women have had in a final 3 since the fire making challenge has happened, which was 4. Besides that, I think there's only been 2 other votes for women altogether. So out of all the votes that have been cast over the past few seasons, I think we only have 6 votes for women altogether.
Wow.
Since
wow.
Wait, so when was the last, who was the last female winner?
Sarah.
Game Changers, which was 34. So this was our 7th season in a row of all winners.
So the way they could switch it up is just make a unique challenge each Final Four. I mean, they can do a lot instead of just making fire.
I just don't prefer it because I mean, I don't know how likely this is. You can check me, but I've like never just seen like a winner of Survivor that has won just based on surviving, the elements in surviving, just like living. And I feel like fire making is a part of that element. I don't feel like it's a part of outsmarting, outplaying. Could say like outlasting, I don't know, but I just feel like it just takes the social and like competitive, because it's I don't know how to make fire. I'm not learning to know how to make fire, but I feel like most of it could deal with like luck in a way. And so it's just like, and I know some of these games are like partially luck. But I just feel like it takes the control out of the player's hands and just puts it in a very like randomizer thing. And I just don't like it like that.
Completely downplays winning the last immunity challenge. Like we saw last night, Natalie won the last immunity challenge, and people were still like, "So you're not going to give up your immunity and face just like Chris Underwood did?" And I'm like, that's kind of bullshit. She won her way back into the game, and then she was not eligible to go home because she either won immunity or she found idols or she had one. Like, that's impressive. But you sit back and you're like, but you're going to take away all of that because she didn't give up her immunity that she won. Normally, people would be excited if you won the last immunity.
Exactly.
So I think that that's also an aspect of it too that I don't like. What I would prefer they do is if they're going to keep fire making in, get rid of the last immunity challenge, and it's the first 3 people who make fire or the final 3. Just make that it.
Dang,
they can do that too.
I would be so pissed about that though, but
totally. You're going to have it that way, like
honestly, exactly. I like that.
That'd be funny.
I mean, that also brought me back to Sequester. I was like, this would be so cool if they just did that. It's at like Final 5, we do a challenge where like we all do a challenge. Well, not necessarily fire making.
House on fire.
Yes.
Whoever sets their house on fire first. Okay, but I'm saying like we do a challenge, or like all 5 of us, we all must submit a vote to somebody to save. The 2 people with the highest votes get saved. And the person that the audience votes also is saved. The final 2 have to do a challenge to see who makes it to Final 4.
You should make
endurance. We can go till the next morning.
Yes. Hold a cup of water in your hand like this. Yeah. Whoever gets.
I'd be there for days.
And then somebody's gonna literally like record themselves doing it, and then just gonna like leave, and then just gonna have their thing holding it like this, and then he's gonna get back and spraying.
Just like
so, that'd be so funny though.
I don't know. It's just crazy.
The game we love.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the final 4 were, pretty much all deserving at that point. So for this particular season, I wouldn't have been mad if any of those 4 won. I would have been mad if Ben won because, whatever. I think he's
mad if Sarah won.
I think he was.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Everyone's entitled to that. It's fine. I was not a fan of Ben laying down his life at Final 5. I'm like, you could have just played that idol on Sarah or Denise the last. Why did you play it for yourself if you were just going to lay it down and die?
Yeah.
Right. Especially if you really want Sarah to win, you go and beat Tony at the fire making, right? Like if that's really your goal in all of this, like you should help her out. Like going out at 5 isn't really doing any good.
I do think that Ben is genuinely a good person, and I think that he has a really good soul. I just don't think that Survivor, even though he won it, this sounds like really condescending as someone who will never play Survivor and has never played it and just commentates on it all the time, but I just don't think it's his game. Like I don't think that he plays the game of Survivor. I think it plays him. And I think that he's a really good pawn for the game, but he's a really great person.
He has a really good soul. Like this is just not the game for people with good souls.
But I feel like he tried to I feel like he may have a good soul. But I feel like he tried to really convey that he had a good soul. Yeah. And I feel like that was it was okay, we don't need you to be okay, we don't need you to actually do I don't know. I just feel like he tried too hard to
I thought he had a good soul until I saw him at the jury with his new facial hair. I
actually kind of liked it. I was like,
I had to change my opinion really quick.
I hated it.
My hands were tied.
That's the work of the devil right there.
How do you explain it otherwise? I don't know.
I thought I was saying you might as well just cut off everything, but at least you tried.
That's funny. That's funny.
Oh well.
Yeah, Ben was a strange character.
Oh man, it's funny.
Well, if anyone in the chat, if you guys have any last-minute questions for us or thoughts on the Survivor finale, our thoughts on the Sequester Survivor Mini coming up next week, anything else for our winners here about their games, advice for Sequester, anything like that while we wrap up a bit. Let's see. You guys are planning on watching all the minis this weekend, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be...
Might not be able to catch that much tomorrow, but I will be trying to.
I'm so excited for Hero versus Villains. I really am. Like, I don't know who the cast is, but I just want to see who Audrey thought were all-stars from all of us.
I know, yeah.
Like,
I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
And I just can't wait until we do more of those. But if you guys were to give us advice, like, if you guys were to give advice for Sequester, what would y'all say? Like, I'm curious.
It's like new people or to like...
Yeah, exactly. That's my exact question.
For new people?
I think a really important part of Sequester is, at least in the first couple of rounds, trying to meet as many people as possible and try to make a genuine connection with it. I don't make fake connections with people in terms of like on a personal level. I'd be like, oh, if I say like, I really liked your video, like I genuinely mean that. I'm not saying like, I liked your video, another person in my book. Like, that's not what I do. But I think that it's important to be as genuine as possible in the first couple of rounds. And yeah, I think it's important to drop names as well.
Yes.
And I think that people respect you more if you're like, not gonna lie, Josh, I was dropping your name. I'm sorry about it.
I know you was.
Actually, I did drop your name.
I know you were. That's why I was like, oh, you were conversations. There's
a difference between like, lying or whatever, which I totally condone. I think that's fine in a game like this. But I also think that like going about it in a way like, how dare you attack my character? I'm like, okay, that's a little dramatic. Like,
yeah,
but
it's entertaining, but dramatic for sure.
That's I guess my point is like, be as genuine as you are. If you're upset, be genuinely upset, but don't put on a theatrical show because people like see through that. And that's happened a few times, especially at like the finals where people are like rolling their eyes dramatically and doing stuff like that. That's like meant to be entertaining, but it distracts from like, okay, but who are you? Like, can I vote for someone like that? Like if I was in the jury. So those are the kinds of things that I say, like be as genuine as possible. And then, go from there.
Yeah, I would say make genuine connections, kind of what Beth was saying, because I think that's what really helped my game. The 2 times that I played and I made it far. I just think like make like genuine connection with people and be bold in your gameplay and remember what you did from start to finish. I don't know if you have to like write it down, because when you start the jury, you have to paint that whole story of the entire game. Yes, take notes. I think it's key. And so yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah. That
I would say.
Oh, Louie, you go.
I was gonna say speed is important. Like it's such a fast game. Like
you need a sense of urgency. 100%.
Yeah, get your. Like don't draw things out. If you have something you need to say it right away. Like there's no reason to preface your thought with "I have a thought." Like get right to it. When you have someone in the room, you don't know who's coming in after. Like hurry up and get to it. And I think that's key.
Every second matters. I feel like, Jacob, your mini most recently is like a perfect example. There were so many times where both in the beginning of the game, the mid game, the end game, where people would be talking about just kind of BS fluff that's not necessarily pertaining to the round that you're in. First round example, Zach, not to call you out in the chat, I know you're in the chat, but there was a great moment in his first room in round 1 where he was trying to make genuine connections with people, with everyone in the room, but was taking a little too long. And every time that he was like about to set up to talk about something else, a room limit would happen. And then like there'd be a room limit, there'd be a pause, and then like eventually someone would leave, and then he would like try to make another connection with someone else, and then another room limit would happen. And so there's like a solid 60-second chunk, possibly more, in the first round where this one room is on a standstill, and all these players are frozen in a room limit and getting to know each other, and there becomes no room for, actual gameplay. Meanwhile, you've got 4 other rooms going on where gameplay is potentially happening. So
yeah. Yeah, I guess when I say make genuine connections, I'm not saying like say your whole life story and like try to get somebody else's. I mean, literally, like have a moment.
Right. And again, that's
like,
not to call you out, Zach. It's just something I observed in the game. So
totally. I also the room limit thing is really a key part, and it's not just like when there is a room limit. If you pop into the room and there's a lot of people playing, say that there's still 16 people, and you pop in the room and no one's there. Stick around for a few seconds, because what's happening is those other rooms are at room limit and someone's going to pop in soon because nobody can get into other rooms. So it drives me crazy when I'm modding, when people pop into my room and then go, oh, no one's here, and then leave immediately. And I'm like, okay, but now you could have stuck around.
The only time that you should be doing that is in like the final 6 or 7.
Correct.
That's the only time.
And there's not as many people, and they haven't shut down room 5 yet or whatever. Yeah, you should be trying to find people.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yes, take that time to talk to the players because people are going to come into that room. It's always going to happen.
Marcelo, what's up, boy?
Hey, Marcelo. I got an advice. One thing I wanted to say, you guys have fun when you play these games. Play like you are going, like play like your favorite reality player has never played before. And you want to see them through you, all right? Play that game. Play crazy. And also play like you already have a spot in Final Four already. Play like you are a finalist from the beginning of the game. So set yourself up for the final of the game, okay? You always want to set yourself up in this.
Yeah. When so Louie, Jacob, and Josh, and TR soon, I'm hoping. When you guys won, when did you start thinking about who you wanted to sit at and who you wanted the Final Four to be besides you? So who are the 3 other people that you wanted to be around?
In my game, I had a lot of I did have a little bit of control of who was still there and who wasn't. And it wasn't when I noticed that Jake was still a big target. I knew I wanted him at the end with me because that would make me not be a big target. Right. And that setup was like all I needed. Everything else will fall in plane. Somebody who to leave Final Four that was close enough to me to not drag me. That's all I needed to make it to the end. So, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think you said Final Four, right? Who did you like want to get? Okay. My Final Four was Sarah, Zach, and Angelica and myself. And I wanted Sarah out just because I just didn't want to stress about being in the final 2 with her. But I knew I didn't really care after that point because I knew that I could like win probability, and I was working with the other 2 people that were there, and I was like, yeah, I was working with the other 2, so mine wasn't really that stressful, that thought out. I was like, okay, can we just get Sarah out? I know she won't drag me. She'll drag one of y'all, and then whoever else I'm kind of like hands up, with. So that was mine. Yeah.
I think my answer is very different from anyone else in this room because there was never any thought as to who I would want to be with me. It was just get there. Yeah. I had no one. It was just relying on like LOSs and like convincing people last minute to keep me there. So it was just scratch and claw desperately at like from Final 7 on to get there, and I managed to do it. So yeah, there was, and here's the thing, and I started to think about this the other day, is I went into my game having seen one. Like I had only seen the Rob as a podcast one, so I really didn't know what I was doing. So I feel like it'll be fun now that I've seen, all of them since then to actually, hopefully, employ some sort of strategy, because there was really no strategy other than winging it and trying to like use sales skills to get people to keep me around.
I felt similar. So I could be wrong. I think I'm the only person who's been dragged out, came back, and won in the same game.
Yes.
I'm not meaning to brag about that, but I guess I'm trying to say that sets me up for kind of a different situation, which is, does that mean people are going to vote for me or not vote for me? And like, can I glean that information based off of like who I'm talking with? Because I want to then stack the jury with people who would vote for me regardless, which means I've got to make good friendships and like work with people. But I'm also like going to have to continue to throw out names and play a game that people would recognize and that kind of thing. So I know that I tend to play a game where I'm passing information around and I'm talkative and like people know that I'm playing. But it was a situation where I was like, people really have to see. Beth was, no, I'm not Chris Underwood. I'm not. Here's why. Here's why I'm not Chris Underwood. He didn't play for the majority of the game, and I did. I did play for the I came back before the jury started, and then
don't do Beth like that,
I played all the way through. So I'm not Chris Underwood. Not that that's a bad thing, but I am like Chris Underwood. I would prefer if Natalie had won, I would have said I was the Natalie Anderson, but that would have made
that's better.
No.
Marcus, you dragged Beth? What? Oh wait, I'm sorry.
Marcus dragged me.
What? We're trying to say season. Oh yeah, that's okay. Now I remember you now.
Yeah. Beth dragged Chris. Beth was rigged out. No, honestly, that is way better. Except for I've never won an LOS in my life, so I wasn't like him getting idols. But I think a lot of that for me, I had to set up who I thought would be good in jury for me. And then about final 6, I was like, okay, out of the 5 other people here, who would be my best chance to not get dragged or whatever to get in the final 2. And I'd do it again. Marcus, no. I mean, honestly, Marcus, yes, because I won. So go for it.
We have some questions coming in from the audience to start out. So what kind of game would you all vote for to be the first 2-time Sequester Mini winner in the Winners at War games? Someone like Tony or someone like Michelle?
Ooh.
We're talking about the Sequester mini game, of course. We're talking about all of that entails, all the randomness, all the fast pace, uncertainty. What are you thinking?
Me personally, I support the big and bold people. I like the people who are loud because I'm naturally a loud person myself. So I always would probably vote for a Tony more than somebody who just had a good grasp of the game more than somebody who didn't necessarily have a grasp. So, but I love Michelle.
I love Michelle too.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
you can go, Louie. You got it.
I was gonna say, I feel like I'm more likely to vote for a player like Tony. I feel like in Sequester we've seen a trend that I think, Jacob, you were probably the first one to actually break this trend, but we had a few in a row that it's someone who does have to fight at the end, right? Who is the underdog, has to come back and fight. And despite, like, we kind of put aside the early game, and the people who are in trouble and have to fight for their lives and get to the end and manage to get to the final 2 are usually rewarded. So I feel like that's what the Sequester jury is looking for. But typically I would vote for a player like Tony over Michelle, even though I probably prefer Michelle. Tony's game is better.
Yeah. And I was about to kind of going off of what Louie said. I do like Tony's game, so I probably will reward that. But I also love a scrappy game like Michelle had to play. And she had to play it. She wasn't I'm not saying gifted with, like Tony was gifted with something, but Michelle, her allies kept falling. And I just love seeing a player go from nothing to make it to the finals and to give a good story about their game. I think Michelle did a perfect job in jury. And so I think going into the jury questioning, I would probably vote for Tony. But if I ask Michelle certain questions, I think I could be easily persuaded to vote for Michelle.
I'm going to put it like this. Based off of gameplay only, I feel like I probably would have been more interested in voting for a Tony kind of player. However, if you can own and answer questions that were scrappy, under the radar, blah, 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 like Michelle did, I probably would have voted for Michelle after the final 3 last night. And here's the reason why. With Sequester, with Survivor, whatever, you have to be able to say how you were adaptable to the game when things went wrong for you and went right for you. And she did that, and Tony didn't do that. He just said, look at all the great things I did. But then she was also able to say, and this is what happens in all final 2s. If I'm ever in your jury, I'm giving you a free pass to know how to get into my head. If you can say, and I'm not saying you have to be disrespectful and rude about this, although it is entertaining and fun. So if that's your style, go for it. If you can say, I did this and this player did not do it, the person sitting next to me, it shows an awareness of your game and other people's game that elevates your case for the final 2. So you basically have to be able to say, like Michelle did last night. Tony didn't have to be scrappy like I did. Tony didn't have to play from the bottom like I did. Tony didn't have to change alliances like I did. He chose to change alliances. I had to choose alliances. That to me shows a level of social awareness and gameplay awareness that I think is really commendable to get you to the final 2.
Yeah, Marcus just said in chat, but it was what I was going to bring up in terms of, what I love about Sequester is that we do get a final 2 jury speech, jury questioning twice per weekend. And I've seen some of the best jury questionings I've seen on any reality competition on Sequester, actually. And Marcus mentioned Brendan from the influencer game. a few weeks ago. It was honestly, I can say, the best jury performance I have ever seen on any show ever. Like, it was incredible the way he talked about the benefits of being an under the radar player and why that is beneficial and why that deserves to win. And anybody, I think, if you can, if you're prepared, and he was prepared to put things eloquently and to know, regardless of what game you played, why that is the better game and why that deserves to win, I'll vote for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sequester, one thing about Sequester, if you feel like you are losing in the final two, you could legit win if you know how to answer jury questions. Jury management is so important in a game where 10 minutes ago you were playing. So it's...
I think the hardest thing to do in a Sequester mini, even more so than Big Brother, even more so than Survivor, is to, if you're going to play an under the radar game, you have to be able to close. You have to be able to explain it eloquently and say how you were manipulating things behind the scenes, how you were being adaptable, and how the other person next to you wasn't doing that or wasn't doing it to your level, basically. And if you can close and say it eloquently, if you can have an answer for everything, if you don't have to sit there and go, all right, well, give me a second. Like, you have to be able to close. If you close, you have my vote, absolutely, because it is so hard to win that any kind of game as an under the radar kind of player, but especially in a mini where everything's in your face.
Now, conversely to the under the radar type of playing, what about a more snaky style of gameplay? Can a snake game win a Sequester mini game, screwing over so many allies and players? Will the jury respect that?
I think
to me and Beth first season, a snake won, and he did a good job. I'm sorry, Rory, the player Rory Moore. You guys, he really screwed a lot of people over, and he admitted it. He just admitted it, and he did a great job with it, and a lot of people rewarded him for it. Some people were butthurt at times.
You said the exact word, though. If you're going to play a snake game, you have to own it in the final.
You have to own up to it.
You have to own up, and you don't have to put up some bullshit apology just if you're not actually sorry about it. You can say, like, yeah, I did that. It was best for my game. Like, that's just how it had to be. And I think that this isn't a gender bias in the sense of, like, that this happens in Sequester, but women are more likely to apologize for things they don't have to, just in a normal day-to-day thing. Like, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. This is where I have tried to trade myself when I play to say, I'm not sorry for making this move because it got me here and it got you where you need to be, which is in the jury for me. And here's why I needed you in the jury. Because if you can genuinely convey why you needed to be in the jury and why that was beneficial to my game, honestly, I think that's much more of a compliment. It may not be in that moment than to just say, I'm so sorry I did that, when you're not sincere about it.
I think especially in the game of Sequester, because we are all such super fans, we're looking to reward the best player, right? I feel like there's not as many hurt feelings in this game because we all want to vote for the deserving person, which is a big difference from, when you're playing Big Brother or Survivor. I feel like a lot of times people do just have hurt feelings and they want to vote based upon that.
And when money's on the line,
don't know that well for the most part versus creating friendships and bonds with people over the course of 40 to 100 plus days.
Exactly. There's so much. I'm noticing it. Like, there's so much that goes onto these shows, especially when you lose and you needing to vote for somebody. I can tell, like, if I had 20 days to know this person, it would be a lot more different. Yelling a lot more.
Well, that looks like it's about it for the questions here today. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. Do you have any final thoughts? Any things you want to say while you have the platform? Anything at all? We've had a couple people start fights and call out drama. So if you have any drama, go for it.
You guys are dumb.
Oh, you really wanted to say something, Beth. Okay. Okay.
Beth just got the email from Audrey to be a villain for a Saturday game.
I love how you call them dumb. I agree.
No, I think I'm super excited for the 3 games this weekend. And I'm super excited for heroes versus villains. I just think with this platform with Sequester that Audrey has. I think we're just super privileged to like be without like Survivor or Big Brother for like this amount of time that we're probably going to be out of it with, and we have like a game that we can actually engage with and like kind of feel like a little our own community with. And so it's just awesome.
Also, to add on to that, like Sequester is growing so much, you guys. It's rapidly becoming bigger and bigger, and it's just so nice to be in like kind of some of the early stages of this. Something that I believe is going to be incredibly huge in just the next year. So I think even like doing this show, like I would never expect to be on a podcast, bro. Like look at me, like that's so exciting. So I'm happy about that. I'm just happy.
Yeah, I would just say if you're in the chat and you're deciding whether or not you want to become a patron, $3. If you can give up $3, please become a patron to support it. And also please sign up to be in a mini, because I know that Audrey's doing her best to balance new players who need a second chance. Especially if you're a woman, please play. I am in the desperate need of standing some queens. I love my men. Y'all are killing it, but I want to see more women coming out and killing it too.
I do too.
Exactly. There's
Sandra
so many.
too.
Yes, Sandra.
Also, if Beth can do another room limit voiceover, I would love that.
Yeah.
Room limit. We have a room limit right now. I'm gonna have to ask everybody to get out of the room. Thank you.
You're so good at that. You're so good.
Is that your face while you do it? Is that your face while you do
it? 100%. The best part the other day was when I was so hungry and I was eating chips, and I of course was like having room limits the entire time. And I'm going, all right, room limit.
Care to answer Marcus's question here?
Once I develop my original song "Room Limit" for my album, I will go onto The Voice and perform my original song, and they won't be able to say no to me. All 4 chairs will turn around. It'll be great.
And she's already getting checks from you better get ready.
Oh my god, I'm gonna go on The Voice and audition with "You Better Get Ready."
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, what song is that?
Jeff Probst would be like, I'm not a producer for the show, and I know it's NBC, but like, get her on. 4 chairs.
He's gonna turn. You're gonna see.
Or Pharrell, or Adam, or whoever.
Yeah.
Be great.
Well, Beth, I know you have your podcast. Do you want to plug that, or have anything else you want to plug?
Yeah. So if you're not already following us on My Weekly Meltdown, please do. We do coverage of Sequester. So the bigger minis. We don't do the smaller minis. So this is why you need to also be following Podquester. Come on, please get into it. Subscribe. But we're also going to be doing, like I said, some Big Brother season 10 review. We are doing a season 40 retrospective, going over the entirety of the season with Tommy Bracco from Big Brother 21. So that'll be really fun. That's this Saturday at 7. We're hopefully going to wrap up right in time for the mini to start. I'll be joining Kirsten McGinnis and the RHAP crew for the live commentary for that. So that should be fun too. You can also follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram at AugustaWind11. I try to stream a couple times a week. I've been failing at that on Twitch, so sorry about it. But yeah, follow me anywhere there.
What about you, Jacob?
No podcast.
You gotta start one.
I talk to myself. Yeah, I just do commentary around my house. But you can follow me on all social media is Jacob J_Jones everywhere. It's a super simple. My name. Get with it.
What about you, Josh?
So you guys can follow me on Twitter at JoshCeoJW. That's JoshCeoJW. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I wouldn't mind. JAW_universe. So I'm very conceited. I'm kidding. Also, I'm not in the gig of podcasting yet. But you know, I decided to buy me a laptop. So when that comes in, I'm going to get into not laptop, a PC. PC. So yeah,
nice.
I'm gonna set that up.
Love that.
What about you, Louie?
Rank and rate on Twitter. I think I'm close to 100. I'm at like 90.
We got to get Louie over 100
followers. We're almost
follow
there.
Louie.
And rate. Follow Louie. There you go. And then you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Byte at TR Conradi. That's TR Conradi. It's pretty simple. I'm going to go solo on the screen real quick. Don't leave, guys. But Like we've been talking about, we do have an action-packed weekend of minis coming up, so make sure that you are watching. One way to do that is going to sequesteraccess.com/live feed. Hit the live feed tab right there. There's videos on the screen on how to watch the minis, on how it works if you're not already familiar. Games down here. We got the leaderboard with some of our guest names already right there. Take a peep. You can see them. Isn't that nice? So make sure you check that out. There is a mini tomorrow night. It's a patron mini at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then there is the special event All-Stars mini, Heroes versus Villains, in celebration of 500 patrons on the Sequester Access Patreon. So that's pretty incredible. To make it even more incredible, in the week that we're celebrating 500, we're almost about to hit 600. So that would be pretty cool. Make sure you become a member. I'll talk about that in a second. There is another patron mini on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to have 3 back-to-back-to-back minis, including 3 back-to-back-to-back podcasts on this channel to talk about them. So Podquester mini, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday, this Sunday, and then 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday to discuss the games from the night before. So be sure to tune into all of that. And as I mentioned earlier, as far as the Patreon goes, become a member to the Sequester Access patron. I actually believe it's just Sequester, not Sequester Access. But for as little as $3 a month, you can play a game and then be here on a guest on this podcast to talk about your game. So do that. We would love to see it. That's it. Well, once again, guys, thank you so much. Be sure to follow us. If you're still watching, thank you. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, leave a comment, tell your friends, subscribe, all that stuff. Follow these people on their socials. Check out the podcasts, the upcoming podcasts, all of that. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.